still a good document, but key is probably it didn't have good implementation or actions or sort of definable ones. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking to inject into it, the update, and possibly just make it a bit more simple and easier to understand for our community. So yeah, we've sort of put together a comms strategy, and look, I suppose with that we're quite conscious that we've consulted a lot around other documents, and we do have feedback around the blueprints and the proposed district plan. So with our comm strategy, the key we're sort of looking at with this document is more targeted comms and yeah, stakeholder input, rather than potentially going out to the whole community. But yeah, we'll sort of wait and see how we get on with the document, and you know how major the changes are. So hopefully, yeah, Matt, is it worth putting the presentation up, or would you like me to share that?
Share the screen, James, and just flick through it.
Okay, I'll
be easier for you.
Yeah, sorry, just why is that? Yeah, I might have to get you to do it, Matt. It doesn't seem to be working for me.
Do you want me to try, James?
Yes, that'd be good, Shelby. Thanks.
Let's see. Oh no, it says it's been moved. Just trying to drag it. Sorry. Oh gosh. It's that PowerPoint, hey, that's the one we're working off, James, that latest one.
Yes, yes,
I just can't seem to drag it into my middle of my screen. Have you got it, Matt?
Yes, I do. I'll just have to take a moment to find it.
Yeah, I just can't seem to like drag it over so that I can actually share it.
Yeah, I don't know what. I think I've only got the one screen just in this little office, so that's why it's not showing.
Maximize. Ah, there we go. Okay, I should be able to do it now.
Okay, thanks.
Can everybody?
Yep, got it, Shelby.
Perfect.
Great, thanks, Shelby. So maybe, yeah, click through to the comm strategy one.
Yeah.
You
want to go from here?
Yeah, I think so. Cool. Yep. Yeah, so just probably the key there is looking at more targeted comms. So just mindful of yeah, all the documentation that the community's seen, but we'll sort of reserve judgment on that. Maybe the next slide, Shelby. So yeah, this I'm kind of mindful. I've kept coming to you with new updates on when the Indigenous Biodiversity NPS is coming out, and MFE keep pushing it back. So apparently it's in February next year, but yeah, I'm not hedging my bets for that one. So the other thing probably to consider is we've got all of these other national policy statements in play, and MFE are kind of working on a national planning framework and trying to rationalise some of that as part of the Natural Built Environment Act that's sort of being proposed for later towards the end of next year, 2022. But yeah, we'll kind of leave that, I think. Next slide, shall we? And this is just the context where Waikato District is sort of at the end of a chain. And maybe the key for us is to look or push for more external funding, which we have tried in the past with some of the waters funding for Pokeno and Tamahiri. But yeah, I'm mindful that with this update of the strategy, we don't want to be heaping more costs onto the council, and it's just sort of saying, if regional and central government want these things, then we need to try and tap into some of that funding. So I'll go to the next slide, Shelby. So yeah, the state of the environment, what are the opportunities? So Indigenous vegetation and habitats have been depleted across the country, and in some cases only remnants are remaining, and that's probably the key targets for us in the district, is to try and protect those remnants and improve them so where we can. So next slide, Shelby. So some of our considerations, as I said, it's consistent with the legislation, being mindful of costs and trying to make it more user-friendly. So, so we've had a go at drafting up our vision with the steering group, and you'll probably note down there it's still a draft, so still open for comment. And then out of that, we've developed some goals, which you can kind of see. I'll take these as read, but this is how we might achieve that vision. And as I said, trying to be a bit more creative around that rather than just using regulation. So I'll go into, so one of the things to think about compared to Hamilton City's nature in the city is, do we put some amounts of areas we want to protect? So for example, with them, they're proposing to protect 10% of the city in natural vegetation. I think at the moment they've got about 2.5, so that's a big ask. We're doing a lot better than that, but probably some of the considerations we'll go through. What are some of the funding goals? And probably previous times I've talked to the councillors, funding should be tied to potentially public access as a key consideration. So so where to next? So we're kind of here, stakeholder engagement. So that's kind of the next phase for the group. And when we get a bit of input from them, we'll think about public engagement and potentially a workshop with the councillors early next year. And so I've got a bit more detail on the timing. So I'll just kind of leave that for you to have a quick read. I mean, currently we're developing up a list of covenant owners and drafting up the document, which we'll put through the steering group before we come back to discuss with the councillors, and also hoping to go and present it or do an introduction to the Marae groups, and then go back to them with a draft. So and then finally, these are some of our external stakeholders and key audiences. So we've started making some contacts or contacting some of these groups, and it may not be a complete list. So if there's more that councillors have identified, please let me know, and we can include them in the mix. So happy to take questions, but sorry, that's sort of charged through it a bit.
Right, no, that's all right, James. Shelby, can you take your screen down, please? Rightio. Just looking at those externals, James. God, there's a swag of them there. So
Yes.
Never mind. That's all right, not a problem. Councillor here.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Thank you, team, for that good work. Just, I guess, my commentary in respect of public access on private property, those conservation lots, and accessibility for funding for those landowners. We need to also be really mindful that those operations will have robust health and safety plans as well. You know, the practicalities of allowing public access across farmland to a conservation lot can be pretty problematic to those farmers if you've got bulls in the paddock. So there needs to be a real balance there.
Yep.
Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you. James, we seem to have, how can I say, we had some controversy around the SNAs, but nothing like what happened elsewhere in the country, and in particular in the far north, where there was a open revolt. I'm just wondering, where are we on that now, do you think, and will that sort of awareness that's been raised backfeed into our processes here, raised nationally? Will that backfeed back into reignite some issues here? And how does that sit? How does the SNA piece sit with this piece of work?
Well, I mean, I think we're in a pretty good space around the SNAs, in that we've already identified them and they've been put out through our district plan. And I think Susan's done some good work around the submissions that were received for the district plan and sort of working through the intricacies of them. I suspect the reason the NPS Indigenous Biodiversity has kept being pushed back is because it's almost a too hot to handle potato for them. So yeah, we'll hopefully get some national direction around that, but Susan might want to comment. I think we're in a good space anyway, so.
Yeah, I think that we are, it will be depending on the decision, when the decision version of the district plan comes out, of course, but I have made recommendations in my Section 42 report to only map SNAs that have been ground truth, to be fair, and give the property owners assurances of what they can and can't do on their land. And I guess it is for the SNAs, it's a matter of watch the space to see what the panel come back with.
All right, Councillor. Maxine.
Kia ora, thank you for your presentation. So the things that immediately come to mind for me, which we've probably already got, you know, places of national significance or international significance, such as the Whangamarino wetland. I'm not sure if there are other Ramsar sites within the district, but that one always comes to mind straight away. But this whole environmental space, Taiao, that's probably the place where we probably will come quite close to iwi, because I mean it's just about everything. It's food sources, it's natural resources for handcrafts and things like flax and dyes and wood and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I think that the importance of really good consultation and discussion cannot be underestimated. And I'm also saying it's not a one size fits all. And remembering too that Waikato District Council includes, well, the majority of the iwi grouping that is within the Waikato District is Waikato Tainui, but there is also Maniapoto comes into this area, as does Hauraki comes into this area. So I just caution about assuming it's a one size fits all thing, because it really, really isn't. That's my comment.
Thank you, Maxine.
Yeah, can I just support that too, James? I was with Hauraki iwi the other day and on another forum, and that was very much reminded to me that Waikato is not just Tainui, it is also Hauraki and Maniapoto too. So yeah, we just need to remember that part of it.
Yep. Yeah, no, we are working with Sam's team, so I think we'll try and cover all the bases.
All right, I'll go to Jim, and then Leo's vigorously waving to me, so I'll come to you in a minute, Leo.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a comment in relation to the SNAs. There was a good slide there that showed how things flow through, kind of with the RMA lens, how they flow through legislation through to our district plan, and that's part of, but not the complete scope of the strategies. I'm sure you've picked up that the actions on private land or the incentives we provide around that are only part of the picture. So just last week at the Planning and Regulatory Committee, Rebecca presented a strategic framework for the review of various and combination of various strategies in that team's area. And so things like the open space strategy in terms of how we manage our own council land is going to be an important part of that. So I just wanted to add that lens. And maybe if we have time in this workshop, we go back to that vision and goals just to make sure you're comfortable with the content in there, because it does really provide a comprehensive, quite a wide view of conservation. It's again, not just what we're asking or expecting landowners to do, private landowners. So thanks.
Well, I think it will require coercing private landowners if requiring access. We don't have the power to acquire an access. We need to work with them to acquire an access. And back to Councillor Ayres' point, to achieve that, there needs to be some shift of responsibility, or it needs to be done in a way that actually minimises the impact to the farmer, some effect. Otherwise, we need to go in there with a plan, not just a hope that we're going to achieve something. We've got to have a vision on how and a strategy on how to achieve that. Leo, turn your mic on, Leo.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, right. So thank you. Good work, James, for a good start for this. And love you say that you just sort of draft and open for comment. So lots of scope there. Just want to talk about the vision. And for me, I would love to see in the vision that there'd be a network of gully care groups or whatever land care groups who will be supporting the conservation strategy, because without people doing the stuff on the ground, the council just can't do this sort of work. It's just way, way too big. And I know you mentioned work together. I'm not sure who that's everybody, but this is specific. The people who are on the land, who are protecting the land and working the land, and who will make it better. And that goes into the goals as well. And I always thought the goals would be surely, and I'd like to see them at number 2, preferably groups that the groups should be. One of the goals should be to make groups who will do this work all over the place. I'm not sure how many groups, ecological groups, that council are working with. I suspect not many, but I'd be very happy to be proven wrong in this and say, well, yes, we've got lots of groups and we are supporting them in a meaningful manner, which of course is the problem. I mean, all the groups have the same problems, and I'm sure some of you will attest to that. The SNAs have come up, obviously. It's going to surprise some people if they're going to find they have an SNA on their property now, and when the plan comes out, the final plan, that the SNA is gone. So I'm not sure where some of them will sit with that, but I'm sure you guys are going to grapple with that an awful lot. Could I ask James, have we got a document that tells us where we're at now with our ecological groups, in terms of, not the groups, but in terms of how much ecological land we've got to protect? Hamilton City, of course, have done one, and they've identified, I think you said 2.5%, and the goal for them is 10%. Do we have a similar thing showing us what we've got at the moment, James, that you might want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably come back to you on that one just with the accurate figures, but yeah, we've got a rough estimate. I mean, you've probably seen some of the Waikato regional studies that have looked at this district and others, but yeah, I might, Rebecca might have that answer at hand.
Sorry, yeah, if I could just jump in. We do have any of our reserves that we record through as natural reserves. So that includes things like Lake Kainui with a natural lake and an esplanade strip around. So we do have a record of council-owned or council administered. So sometimes we administer some of dockland as well. So we do have a record of all those. The best measure would be hectares, but we also note anytime Ben, our ecologist, puts any plants in the ground, we've got a record of where our restorations are occurring, and we're also setting up a program to start measuring the not just plants or coverage, but the actual ecological benefit or impact or service gained from putting those plants in as well. So it's a growing database, but we can definitely pull some numbers if needed.
The last thing I want to note, please, while these Zoom meetings are necessary, it's not a very good way to actually have a workshop, and no disrespect to anybody on the screen. I think meaningful discussions are generally had around the table, and where we can exchange far better. There's an awful lot of stuff to talk about in this conservation plan. It's 16 years since the last one was done. It's probably 20 years since we started. So it's well out of date. I think it needs more than tweaking. I think it needs a new one. It's like a 20-year-old car, isn't it? It still goes, but it ain't quite the same thing. So, you know, we do need a new one. I'd like to see numbers attached to the conservation strategy. The other one had numbers that lasted about 2 years, and then the numbers fell out the back door. Because without numbers, you actually can strategize all you like, but nothing happens. So we need numbers, and numbers come commitment from council to do its follow up its strategy. So that's me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Leo. Councillor Church.
Thank you, through your worship. Couple of things. Just on that audiences, there's not much obviously here in the North Waikato, so I'd just like to perhaps ask it that I'm going to send you an email of some contacts up there of various groups that could be added in, but perhaps if they put on the knowledge tree or whatever you use, so that we can kind of keep the collective information of those groups up there. But for example, yeah, so if that would be helpful. So I'll send you, James, an email on that. But in terms of larger audiences, I'd suggest that you have Walking Access, who always asks to be involved in anything around property or land. And also because they've got a really free and helpful services for us, great mapping, and also really want to partner up with us. So that would be another one. Yeah. So the other one is when you're doing the strategies, I would suggest that even things like the heritage strategy that's been redeveloped could also be considered, because there, just as Mrs. Moana Tufangai suggested, there's a lot around the significance of the heritage or places or even food or the significant areas around reduction that will be relevant to what you're doing. So I'll send you an email, James, of just some other groups, but if we can kind of embed them, not just perhaps into your system, but perhaps a little bit more into council, so we don't keep repeating them.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you, Councillor Church.
All right. Maxine, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it was just also not thinking of just conservation, but thinking of the environment. And I think of some places, you know, when you go, like when you're heading down towards the Central Plateau, you know, there's all these people with mountain bikes on the back of their vehicles. So I'm not quite sure how to say it, but perhaps some thought to what Waikato might be like in the future, and ensuring that the strategy meets the needs of the Waikato district in the future, because if we've got it's anticipated that the numbers of people residing here will increase, so they might come with different hopes or expectations in terms of recreation, just pastimes and things like that. So perhaps the strategy needs to have some thought. Well, they probably have, I don't know, but thought about that too. What the future hopes or expectations may be for a potentially whole new group of people that have never lived here in the past. Some of the things that they might want to do here. Does the council hope that at some stage there will be, this could be, I don't know, a something sort of place where everyone thinks about when they come to the Waikato, just as when you go to Rotorua, you always think about mountain biking and heading up through the redwoods or something like that. When you head out towards Central Plateau, there's always vehicles that have got mountain bikes strapped to their roof or in the back. Could this district potentially become a place for something similar? Maybe not exactly the same, but something similar in the future.
Okay. Sounds good.
No, good comment. I think we're probably locally well known already for the Akromata walkway. You only need to look at the numbers of the people that actually connect with that on a daily basis. But yeah, good point though. Rightio. Jim, where are you? Jim, you wanted to go back and look at the goals and strategy. Did you want to go back over that or something?
I'll just take a lead from James or Donna on that. I just felt like that was really important piece of work that is foundational for the strategy. So if anyone had any comments on that, now would be a good time to hear that, because that'll my understanding is that will be what's in the package that goes out to these groups. James, do you want to
I mean, we will bring a draft back in the future workshop. So I don't think those the vision and goals are set in stone at the moment, but certainly if councillors and others have feedback, they can send that through to me, and I can input that into the draft and sort of discuss it with the steering group. So yeah, I think that's still a work in progress. Hopefully we're getting close, but we can certainly revisit those in the next workshop, and I can pre-circulate that. And as I say, happy to receive some, any comments on those now that people have got them. But unless anyone wants me to bring them up now, we can just go through them.
I think, James, we'll keep moving on, but I just think if anybody's got any feedback to flick it through to you by way of an email. The other thing is, I'm just looking at the timing of this, and I go to Leo's point around, and it certainly is easier, Leo, to meet around a table and is to do this sort of thing on a Zoom. So hopefully early next year, by February next year, that's exactly how we can operate, as long as the world doesn't get tipped upside down again. So looking forward to that for sure. So has anybody else got any questions before I sign off here? But as I said, if anybody has got any points they want to raise with either James or Susan, by all means email them and let them know, and we'll leave it at that. Do you need any more, James, Susan?
Not at the moment, no. Yeah, you've sort of covered it, and happy to to have a conversation if people don't necessarily want to email. So
yeah.
All
right. Is that good?
Okay. Thank you for your time.
No, you're welcome. Welcome. I just got to ask Shelby a question. Does she pull a screen up for me?
The PowerPoint again, Marilyn?
No, I just want to ask, are you still in Wanaka?
I am in Wanaka, yes.
Well, level 2 up here now, Shelby. You can come home.
I am hoping to come up very soon once our lovely new boss, Emma, is able to get down from Auckland. So
oh, that's right. I forgot about Emma. She's stuck up
poor
there.
Emma. Yeah. So as soon as we can get into the office, we're hoping to have a team day. So hopefully soon.
Okay, Shelby. I just couldn't resist seeing you there.
No, it's only 29 degrees here today, Marilyn. Only 29.
We might get to 25 today, but we've got a good breeze here, so it's nice. All right, everybody. You didn't come on to listen to me talk to Shelby about her being envious of her being a Wanaka. So we'll